Okay, so in this video, we're going to be talking about solving proportions. And before you can solve a proportion, you have to know how to solve an equation, okay? And so I've done videos on the past on solving equations. So if you don't know how to do that, make sure you check them out. I'll go ahead and link them below so you have access to that content. But again, make sure you know how to solve an equation before you try these videos here and these examples. So let's get into solving a proportion. Now here's number one. This is going to be considered a proportion. I know that because I have two ratios equal to each other. That is the definition of a proportion, when you have two ratios equal to each other. Now, what is a ratio? A ratio is just a comparison of two things using division, okay? So in simpler terms, a ratio is just a fraction. So if you have a proportion, that means you have two fractions equal to each other. So how do we solve that? Well, if you see that you have two fractions equal to each other, you can do something called cross multiplication. So I'm going to do x times 2 and then 7 times 3. Okay? So when we do that, we get 2x, okay, x times 2, and then you bring down your equal sign, and then you do 7 times 3 and you get 21. So you can see after you cross multiply, it turns into an equation. So again, make sure you are proficient in solving equations before trying proportions. So from here, it's a one-step equation. I'm simply going to divide both sides by 2 because that is the opposite operation of multiplication, which I have right here, okay? So if I divide by 2, this will cancel. 21 divided by 2, we're just going to leave it like that, okay? X is equal to 21 over 2. We're going to leave it as an improper fraction, and that's it. And so if you want to check your work from here, you could do the same thing that you would do with an equation, right? You would plug it back into x, you would substitute back into x, and you would make sure that it would equal out, okay? Now, we're not going to do that here, but that's something you can do on your own to make sure that you are doing the problems correctly, okay? So let's try another problem. So here's number 2. Now, again, we have another proportion, two fractions equal to each other, and the variable this time is on the right-hand side, no big deal. We're still going to cross multiply though, so 2 times 5 and then 3 times x. So 2 times 5 will give you 10, equal to 3 times x, I get 3x. Now to solve it, you're just going to do the opposite operation, which is going to be division here. So divide by 3, that's what we want to get rid of. This will cancel. And so we get x is equal to 10 over 3. And so that's it. Okay, we're going to leave it just like that. All right, let's try another example. So here's another example. You can see that you have two terms now on your denominator, and I have a variable here in my numerator and a variable here in my denominator. It's still going to be considered a ratio though. It's a fraction, so we can still cross multiply here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I do x times 5, and then x plus 6 times 7. So x times 5 is 5x. And when I multiply here, it's going to be 7 times x plus 6. Okay, now you have to remember you do have to distribute here. So I'm going to do 7 times x and then 7 times 6. So I get 5x is equal to 7x and then plus 42. Okay, make sure you distribute, don't forget. So from here I have a variable on both sides. I'm going to move it over to the left-hand side. This is a positive 7x. So I'm going to minus 7x. Okay, doing the opposite operation. This will cancel. 5x minus 7x will give you negative 2x. So I get negative 2x equal to positive 42. Almost done. Last step, divide by a negative 2. Okay. So dividing by a negative 2. This will cancel. I get 42 divided by negative 2. That gives me negative 21. So x is equal to negative 21. And that's going to be complete. Again, if you want to check your work, plug it back into x, simplify it down, you would cross multiply, and it should equal out. And actually, why don't we do this one real quick, just so you can have an example of how you would check your work. So real quick, if I plug in negative 21 into x, I get negative 21 over, let's do this out, negative 21 plus 6, that will give me negative 15, equal to 7 over 5, okay? And so when you cross multiply here, you should get the same number, okay? So if I cross multiply here, I should get the same number. And so what I end up with is negative 105 equal to negative 105, right? There's our confirmation that we did it correct. We're good to go, okay? So that's how you would check it if you wanted to. All right, let's try one more example. So here's our last example. It looks a little more challenging. You have two terms on the numerator and denominator, but same thing, we're going to cross multiply here. So just be careful when you do this problem, right? We're going to cross multiply there and here. And remember, you are going to have to distribute. So here I get 2 times x plus 1 when I cross multiply the first time. And then when I cross multiply the second time, I get 7 times x minus 3. And now we're going to distribute, okay? So we're going to distribute inside, right? So I get 2x plus 2 equal to 7x minus 21, okay? So again, you have a variable on both sides, and we're going to take care of this all in one go. So I'm going to take this positive 7x, and I'm going to minus 7x, okay? This will cancel, and I'm also going to take care of this positive 2 right now. So I'm going to minus 2, and this will cancel. That way we can do it all in one go, and we don't have to go back and do it again. So right here, 2x minus 7x will give you negative 5x. And this part right here, negative 21 and negative 2, that gives you negative 23. Okay? And here's my last step, divide by negative 5. Okay? This will cancel. Now be careful, I'm dividing two negatives here, so it's going to become positive, right? So I end up with x equals 23 over 5, and that's it. Okay, we're going to leave it just like that. Okay, so that is solving proportions. I hope that this video was useful. I hope that you gained something from it. And as always, if the video did help you, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe for more math videos in the future, and I'll see you in the next one.